This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Oh, yes, it is the Subway to Shea podcast. Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. Episode 203 from the Subway to Shea studios in my office, a special Father's Day edition of the Subway to Shea podcast. And I think I have the hat out here. I'm gonna have to wear that. I'm gonna have to wear the hat today. Special Father's Day hat I got here. There we go. Happy Father's Day out there to everyone, whether you're a girl dad, boy dad, pet dad, got dogs, cats, whatever. It's a special Father's Day, and I hope you all enjoy it. Have a great day today and enjoy some Mets baseball while you're at it. Shout out to the chat. We got 17 people in the room at the moment. Appreciate every single one of you for being a part of this show. And very excited to talk Mets baseball with you. It's just you and me today. So you're going to be a huge part of this show, and I appreciate that. Make sure you leave your comments, your questions. You can follow Subway to Shea on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow me at Ant Rivera 86. You can subscribe to the audio portion, which you can hear later on today on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you want to be a part of the chat, you got to be on YouTube. You can even do it on X, but being a part of the YouTube, subscribing, liking the video, sharing it gets more people, more eyes, more Mets fans on this show. And shout out to Ron Rivera putting it out there. 17 away from the magic 1,000 subscribers. So please hit that like and subscribe to the Subway to Shea podcast. We got a big show to talk about today. Some good, some bad. That's how it is when we talk about the New York Mets, right? Always some good, always some bad when it comes to this team. And we're going to start off the show talking about Kodai Senga. A little bit of an injury update to Kodai Senga. As you know, he has a grade 1 hamstring strain, which is probably the best case scenario for the New York Mets. It's the best possible news. Had that injury, sustained that injury during a run to first base and what was a overthrow from Pete Alonso, who's kind of have the yips right now throwing to first base. So yeah, that's it sucks because, Pete Alonso is having a hard time, whether it's throwing home, throwing to second, throwing to first. Earlier on in the game, got a double play ball right to him. And I got a little bit nervous, but he was able to turn it. He did well on that, in which I was happy to see. But then you talk about the throw to first base, overthrew Kodai Senga. Senga had to leap into the air, and as soon as he touched first base, he strained his hamstring. Now, he's saying it happened before. I don't know if he's doing that to protect Pete Alonso. Obviously, Pete Alonso was upset. He was down about it. And I really do think that one, Pete Alonso needs to start, and I'm pretty sure he's doing this already, but he needs to start practicing these throws to first a little bit more. And him, maybe even Francisco Alvarez with the pass balls, that has to be worked on during pregame and stuff like that. I know it's different in-game action, but man, the Mets need to do a little bit better defensively. They got to tighten it up. I really thought coming into this season that this Mets defense would be a whole lot better. I killed the Yankees defense behind Clay Holmes as a reason why he struggled with that team. And I said, he comes to the Mets, he'll be fine. And the Mets defense has just not been great. It hasn't been great at all. So it stinks that this has happened and that this injury is taking place. I will say this about Kodai Senga, and that is he did this last year. Right? Running to first base, trying to get an out. He did this last season. Now, it wasn't the same injury. It was a calf strain, but it did happen. Similar fashion. And you got to wonder, is Kodai Senga injury prone? That's really the question here. Is Kodai Senga injury prone? And is this something that we're going to have to worry about for his whole entire career? I hope not. I hope that's something that we're not going to have to worry about. But it is something to think about. Now, can the Mets survive without Kodai Senga? And I said this on X. If you follow me on X at Subway to Shea, I said yes. If there's any team that is equipped for this injury, it's the New York Mets. They basically went through it last year with Senga, as I mentioned earlier, and they didn't have as much depth as they do this year when it comes to pitching. Now, hopefully the injury is not severe. We know it's going to take 2 weeks for him to be shut down, and then he'll be reevaluated again when that time is over. We'll check in and see what happened. Armand was at the game, and he said that Senga got injured and it looked worse in person. The only, I guess positive that I will say out of this is that he did get up on his own accord. He did walk off fine. So considering that this is a grade 1 strain and that it should take 2 weeks of a shutdown, and we all know that Kodai Senga is very particular about his rehabs, and it takes a while. But the hope is that Kodai Senga that shut down for 2 weeks, okay to once reevaluated to go and start ramping back up again, and then he's back on the mound. But you got to be a little bit concerned if Kodai Senga is going to be this injury-prone guy. The Mets are already, I don't want to say the word babying, protecting maybe. They're already protecting him by wanting to have this, 6-man rotation and the extra day off, and everything has been, they've been trying to keep him from getting hurt and getting injured. The best thing is that it has nothing to do with his arm. So his arm's okay. His shoulder's okay. His elbow's okay. That's the positive to take away from this. And the fact that the Mets do have enough depth to get through this. Now, obviously, things this week have not been spiraling. They kind of have been spiraling a little bit out of control when it comes to the pitching staff. But as we've seen with the Mets in the past, they've been able to put some tough losses behind the wayside. They just came off a 6-game winning streak. They've now lost a couple in a row here. I think the Mets will be fine. I know that there's concern, and that's okay. But I think they have enough pieces to get through this. Shamanaya should be coming back soon. I know Frankie Montas has been struggling. And then you got to wonder at some point, because I'm not going to count on the trade deadline. If you want to talk about Sandy Alcantara, I even heard Jacob deGrom's name being thrown around over the last week. I'm not counting on any of that stuff. I'm counting on the pieces that we already have in this organization, and that includes in AAA. We've already seen Blade Tidwell. I know Brandon Sproat hasn't had the best season so far, but to make a spot start here and there, it's possible. And then you look at a guy who's been lighting it up in AAA, Nolan McLean. Could he be a possibility to come up if there's any serious injury? So we will see how the Mets handle this situation. I think for the next couple of weeks, they should be fine. They did bring up Max Kranick. He was called when they put Kodai Senga on the IL. But he's even struggled. His last 15 games got a 5.40 ERA, giving up 26 hits, 13 earned runs, and only has 15 strikeouts in 21 and 2/3 innings pitched. I don't know what happened to Max Kranick, but I miss April Max. Got to bring April Max back. I don't know what it is. Maybe they overused him and overworked him in April, but I miss him in the bullpen. The bullpen is not as we probably thought it was going to be, right? Ryan Stanek really hasn't been lights out, although most of his struggles has been against the Washington National. Jose Butto isn't 2024 Jose Butto. He's been more of the Jose Butto from the postseason last year. And as Duran Rivera posts it, the bullpen is overworked and the injuries to AJ Minter and Danny Young has left the Mets exposed. Now, thankfully, they have gotten good contributions from Jose Castillo, who I think finally gave up a earned run here. But he had gone, I think, 9 innings maybe without giving up an earned run. He's been very, very good for this team, filling in for Danny Young and AJ Minter. And they may have another lefty coming back on the way in the next couple of months. We'll get into him a little bit later on in the show. You know, even with all these struggles in the bullpen, actually, the Mets might even get another arm in the bullpen in Frankie Montas because he's been struggling on his rehab. His last start, 1 2/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 8 earned runs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. He's got a 13.17 ERA in 5 rehab starts. He's got at least 1 more rehab outing coming up, according to David Stearns during his presser. And even Tim Brin of The Athletic said he may come out of the bullpen. This is a guy who signed a 2-year, $34 million deal. I hope he doesn't flail out like Adrian Hauser did when we got him to start the season. Now, that was via trade. But, man, I thought Adrian Hauser was going to be a lot better than he was. And, man, he did not get off running as a starting pitcher. And then he failed in the bullpen. Frankie Montas, we're going to need a lot more from him. But I wonder if David Stearns kind of regrets that deal, that bringing in a Frankie Montas. So Kodai, being out, being shut down the next 2 weeks, obviously will be reevaluated again when that time is up. And look, the Mets really need to get themselves going here. And, I tend to kind of agree with Nelson Cruz here in the comments. I don't have any confidence in Montas. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're wrong too. But I do. I think a lot of us agree. Even Armand agrees in the chat. We have not seen enough from Frankie Montas, especially he was not good when he was with the Yankees, when his first stint in New York. And he's always injured. Maybe David Stearns thought that he could, fix him like he's fixing everybody else, like he's helping him and Jeremy Hefner. Maybe the pitching lab helped, Clay Holmes and Griffin Canning pitch well. And they turned around Sean Manaea and Luis Severino. Look at Luis Severino now in Oakland. He's not the same pitcher as he was here in Queens with us. Just not. And even though I think that this team can overcome this injury, because we've seen it in the past, we saw it last year, they have the bodies to be able to do this, right? They're not throwing Jared Eichhoff out there. They're not throwing Jose Reyna out there. The names go on and on of retreads that never worked, that they just needed to take space on the roster. The Mets now have bodies that can fill this position. Now, there have been pitching woes here to start this season. There has been plenty of pitching woes to start this season. And I'm going to start off right now, right off the bat here with Tyler McGill. Saturday, 3 2/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, gave up 6 total runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts in his last 7 starts. Tyler McGill is 2-3 with a 5.57 ERA, has given up 33 hits, 20 earned runs, 18 walks, 44 strikeouts in 32 and a third innings pitch. He is doing himself no favors, right? We know this already. He was kind of, in April, he's fantastic. In April, he's fantastic. And in September, especially last year, he's fantastic. If he pitches those 2 months, he is one of the more elite pitchers. It's those middle months that he has struggles with. May, June, July, August. He's literally doing himself no favors with the way he's been pitching. You thought he would, at the end of April, he would be a lock to stay in this rotation. But it seems like that's not going to happen. With Minaya coming back, I'm not going to throw in Frankie Montas right now, especially if they're going to consider him being in the bullpen. When Senga comes back, McGill is going to be the odd one out. He just is. The struggles have been real for Tyler McGill. And I honestly don't know if he'll ever be that starting pitcher. It's really like Armand says, McGill or Montas, pick your poison. It really is. Now, I want to see Tyler McGill succeed. We all do. But it's just not happening right now for him. The struggle has been real for Tyler McGill. He's good for the first couple innings. He starts falling apart in the 4th and the 5th. And probably he'll go to the bullpen. He'll either go to the bullpen or go back down to AAA. But even when they throw him in the bullpen, I haven't really seen enough to say, you know what, that's going to work out. We've seen so much of Tyler McGill that we already know what's going to be happening with him. So I really don't know how they handle him going forward. If they put him in the bullpen, everyone's going to be going to the bullpen, right? McGill, Montas. It's just, I just don't know how they're going to handle this situation. They already had one tough situation that I want to get into. And that was the Clay Holmes, Paul Blackburn dilemma from Friday night. And I know a lot of fans were upset about what Carlos Mendoza did and didn't do. And as I check into the chat here, a couple comments from Duran Rivera from earlier that I starred. Mendoza putting Blackburn in and taking Holmes out after 5 while he was still competitive set the tone for this series. Mendoza takes Holmes out after the 5th, but leaves McGill in, who obviously didn't have it. And then Mendoza wound up using the bullpen anyway after the Blackburn decision backfired. Now, in the Mets 7-5 loss on Friday to Tampa Bay, this is the issue that happened. Clay Holmes pitched 5 innings of 1-run ball, which I think it was 79 pitches. They took him out. And Clay Holmes has been fantastic. Back-to-back starts with only giving up a run. He was taken out after 79 pitches, had a 5-1 lead, replaced with Paul Blackburn, who then came into the game. I don't think he even got out of the inning. He gave up 4 earned runs to tie the game. A lot of the fans upset at Carlos Mendoza for, making that call. But I totally understood and was okay with this move. And I've said this in the past. I probably said it last episode and a couple previous ones. Clay Holmes has now officially surpassed his innings limit. Are they going to shut him down for the season? No. Are they going to take him out of being a starter? Definitely not yet. And to make sure he lasts an entire season, they are going to monitor his innings and pitch count. That's why they took him out at 5 innings. On top of that, Carlos Mendoza, during the post-game press conference, said that Clay Holmes and the coaching staff agreed that 85 pitches would be the max for this start on Friday. Holmes was okay with it. They were trying to play it safe. He felt sore after his last outing in Colorado, but good enough to pitch this game. And thankfully, he feels better now after this Tampa Bay start. And then on top of that, you put the fact that Kodai Senga is down now, and Paul Blackburn is going to have to replace him in the rotation. So Paul Blackburn needs to get his reps. He's going to pitch in 5 games or 5 days, especially when you're pitching against Atlanta. And he hasn't pitched since Sunday against the Rockies. So he had no choice but to pitch Paul Blackburn in that spot. I don't blame Mendy for this decision. Obviously, there's things to pick apart with Mendy's game. This is not one of them. The Mets have to protect Clay Holmes. That's what happens when you have these type of pitchers, and you can throw Kodai Senga in this, and you may scratch your head when these decisions are made, but at the end of the day, the Mets are going to do everything in their power to protect this rotation and these pitchers. As G-Money Snag says, Blackburn messed up and caused us a loss. He couldn't get 3 outs with a 4-run lead. It's definitely not on Carlos Mendoza. This was the game plan going into this game. We got to get Clay Holmes to 85 pitches. Thankfully, he got through 5 innings. If this was Tyler McGill, he would have been out in the second or third inning. But thankfully, because he's a ground ball pitcher, he was able to get through 5 innings quickly, only on 79 pitches. And then they said, let's take him out. This isn't on Mendy. Blackburn should have been able to get 3 outs up 4 runs. The move just didn't work. That's all. The move didn't work. Now, they also need to figure out what to do with Blackburn, because in his post-game comments, he mentioned it being tough getting into a reliever routine after being a starter his whole life. I mean, do with that what you may, but if this guy's struggling to get himself ready to pitch in the bullpen and he can only be a starter, you really got only 2 options with this. You either keep him as a starter in this rotation or you trade him. Because I heard that there was talks that people are interested in Paul Blackburn. That's all you can do with Paul Blackburn. He pitched well in LA in his return. He's had a couple of good starts. He's your prototypical fifth starter. See if he can hang as a starter for now. Put Montas in the bullpen, I guess. Or don't even bring up Montas. Maybe throw McGill in the bullpen. But I don't put as much blame on Carlos Mendoza for this. I don't. This was the strategy going into the game. They knew it beforehand. Holmes only pitching 85 pitches. He ended up throwing only 79. You go to Blackburn, so Blackburn could get the reps before his start in Atlanta. And no one expected, first off, no one expected him not to get through the inning. He was supposed to probably go 2 or 3 innings, and he didn't even get through 1 inning. No one expected that. The move didn't work, and that's pretty much it. And we move on from that game. It sucks that then you had a stinker from Tyler McGill. But there is a positive in the rotation. There is a positive, and that is David Peterson, complete game shutout. We have not seen, we saw one last year. I think I've seen 2 complete game shutouts over the last 4 or 5 years from the Mets. One being Luis Severino from last season, and then the other being Jacob deGrom in 2021 when he struck out 15 Washington Nationals and was having a crazy season before he got hurt. But it's great to see David Peterson come through here. It's great to see Carlos Mendoza, who's probably gotten killed all weekend for his pitching moves, allowing David Peterson to go out there and finish his game. 9 innings pitched, 6 hits, no runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts. This season, David Peterson is 5-2 with a 2.49 ERA. His stats since returning from the IL in 2024 and that hip surgery, in 34 games, 15-5 with a 2.74 ERA. I think where things really changed for him and maybe the confidence level got really boosted was that postseason game, that wild card game, game 3, getting that save to help the Mets move on to the NLDS. I think new confidence and bravado for David Peterson. You know, he had the save against Milwaukee, carried that into the NLDS, getting out Harper and Schwarber and coming in a pinch. You wanted him to start, he started. You want him in the bullpen, he was in the bullpen. David Peterson has pretty much been an ace-like pitcher for the Mets this year. Him and Kodai Senga, they were top 5 in ERA in the National League. So kudos to David Peterson and the play that he has been on, the game that he has been on since coming back from the hip surgery. And the great thing about this, he's a homegrown pitcher. He's a lefty. He's come from the Mets minor league system. And if they want to re-sign him and make him be a part of the rotation for an even longer time, they can do that without having to dish out 200, 300 million for a starter. Gary King says it. Peterson is our best starter in his opinion. There's not a lot of people that are going to disagree with you on that. Stanley Babbage in the chat saying, put Paul Blackburn in the starting rotation. I agree. Let's see if it works out. Put him in, maybe take out Tyler McGill and see how things work from there. Good point here by Ethan KL. He goes, attitude from Tyler McGill really sucks. It gives me vibes of whatever. I'll be back anyway because someone will get injured. Tyler McGill has a weird vibe. Now, obviously, he's not going to be happy about his start, right? He's going to be upset. He's going to be frustrated, but it's a very, nonchalant, relaxed, reserved, and maybe that helps him get through. But it just does give off this weird type of vibe when you see Tyler McGill during the post-game pressers. And, I don't know how people want him to get angry about it or whatever, but man, it sucks. You just hope that he could turn it around and pitch better in his next start. Armand saying, per Anthony DeComo, the Mets are recalling right-hander Ty Adcock and optioned Justin Garza to AAA Syracuse. It's the carousel of the bullpen. The Mets are going to be making these moves, and that's what makes David Stern so good, is he's able to plug in these bodies. And we saw a little bit of good from Justin Garza. Let's see if Tyler Adcock can help out here. G-Money Sacks saying, let's hope the Mets don't get swept here. That's the hope. That's definitely the hope here. I'm going to transition here from the pitching, and we're going to talk about the hitters right now that the Mets have, and the bats somewhat heating up. And I put in a little asterisk there because the Mets bats have been heating up, but I put the asterisk because they're still struggling with runners in scoring position. They really do. Friday, 2 for 16 with runners in scoring position, 12 left on base. That's awful. You can't be doing that. Gary King saying Soto's the most unlucky player this season. Well, the stats definitely show on hard rate hit ball and, all those stats that him exit velocity, everything has been just struggling. And now even Andrew McCutchen, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Andrew McCutchen talked about how the balls are being deadened out there, and MLB talking about changing the balls. Like, can we just get one ball and stick with it? Just stick with one ball and stop messing around. Here's the positive when it comes to the Mets and their hitting. And I am going to put this down on the screen below. The last 15 games for Mets hitters. Francisco Lindor batting .300, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, and an .866 OPS. Brandon Nimmo batting .304, 5 home runs, 12 RBIs, and .968 OPS. Juan Soto, we just talked about, even though he's hitting some bad luck, over the last 15 games, .333, 5 home runs, 10 RBIs, 15 walks, because he walks, and a 1.302 OPS. Pete Alonso, .327, 6 homers, 20 RBIs, and a 1.208 OPS. Starling Marte, of all people, right? .324 batting average, a homer, 4 RBIs, and an .866 OPS. Jeff McNeil, .306 batting average, 5 homers, 11 RBIs, and a 1.011 OPS. Now let's get into Soto real quick here. It feels like Soto is back, right? It feels like he's all the way back. He's got the shuffle going on. He's got the smile, but most importantly, he is hitting, right? And despite what Danielle McCartan of WFAN says, he is heating up. Doesn't matter who you're playing. He should be crushing the Washington Nationals. He should be crushing the Colorado Rockies. Those things should be happening. And he's been doing that. I agree with Peter here in the chat. I think we'll be fine. And we will. Let this season play out. The Mets are in first place. They're what, 19, 18, 19, 20 games over 500? And it's only June? Let the season play out. This team has taken it to another level with just the presence alone of Juan Soto. Nelson Cruz saying MLB doing changing of baseballs, shooting themselves in the foot. I agree. Just pick a baseball and go with it. They just change it every time. When the pitching is really good, they change the baseball so that there could be more home runs. And then when there's too many home runs, they change it back. Let's get with one ball and let's see these guys play. That's it. Someone who was affected originally by the changing of the baseballs was Jeff McNeil, right? Got more power out of him. He won game 1 versus the Nationals on Tuesday in extra innings. He's been a key contributor in this 6-game winning streak. If he can continue, this is huge for the lineup. All the stats you see on the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 9 batters. Lindor leading off. Nimmo batting second. Soto third. Alonso 4. And if you flip-flop either Marte or McNeil 5, 6. And then as Peter put it, he likes Nimmo batting second, which I do as well. I think it's going to have to stay like that. It's nice. And if they can have Mark Vientos come back healthy, it's huge because the bottom of the lineup has been what has killed this team for most of the season. And what's been thrown at the bottom of the lineup has been the kids. Francisco Alvarez hasn't been himself offensively. Ronnie Mauricio hasn't taken off, although he has 2 home runs. And then you got to put in a Tyrone Taylor, who was not the greatest offensively. He'll give you a spurt here and there. And then you got, Luis Torrens, who will occasionally get the big hit, but he's been struggling as of late after going on a heater himself. You hope that at some point this offense balances itself out and that they are able to figure out a way to hit with runners in scoring position. They really need to get that figured out because 2 for 16 on Friday against Tampa Bay with 12 left on base is not good. And we are now into June. Figure it out. Figure it out. Now, Starling Marte has already proven that he's not finished yet, right? All the talks of his demise, and I've even thought of it as well, were premature. He showed life in the postseason and came up with some of the big hits. At some point, I thought he was done and on his way out of here, but he really kind of has become this emotional leader, a la Jose Iglesias was last season. He's now the guy that is, every time there's a home run, they're doing the celebration with him for the camera. He's helped with Soto's transition to Queens, kind of like Julio Franco did for Carlos Beltran. And as Gary King says, people forget Starling Marte was our best hitter in 2022. Before he had that hand injury, yeah, he pretty much was. He pretty much was. So I think the Mets will be fine. I know someone in the comments mentioned that. The Mets will be fine, folks. Let the season play out. This isn't the NFL. There isn't 17 game slate, 162 game season. There's going to be good. There's going to be bad. Unless you are the 1998 Yankees, who pretty much ran roughshod over every team, or that Seattle team in 2001. One of those teams won a World Series. The other one didn't. The most important thing for this team is to get healthy as we get into the final stretch of the season and to get hot at the right time. The Mets got hot at the right time in September, carried it into October, and we're within 2 games of the World Series. That's all you got to do. Get yourself right. Now on to some of the news and happenings surrounding this team. Injury updates, as I like to say, because I see a lot of people in the chat asking. So we're going to get into them. I saved that for last. I wanted to make sure that I got to all of that stuff. So I saved it for last here. And I'm trying to look up the comment here in the chat. And it was Gary King. Vientos getting hurt or getting injured hurt us most than people thought. And it did. He suffered that right hamstring strain in LA. Not as bad as the injury to Kodai Senga, which isn't as bad either. But he's going to start his rehab assignment Tuesday or Wednesday for AAA Syracuse. This season, he's batting .230, has 6 homers, 22 RBIs, and a .735 OPS. We could really use 2024 Vientos back. Although I said it was possible that he could slump, that sophomore type slump this year. I thought with how well he played last season, the adjustments that he made to limit these kind of slumps that he went through last season, I thought that that was going to happen this year, and it has not. And it also has affected him on the field, where we don't even know if he's going to be the third baseman, but really no one is running away with third base. Because as good as Ronnie Mauricio has been playing third, as well as Brett Beatty, their bats have not been there. Brett Beatty's come back down to earth a little bit. Ronnie Mauricio hasn't gotten, a solid hit since the Colorado series. Maybe Mark Vientos becomes a DH. Maybe he gets some more playing time at third. Maybe this injury for Mark Vientos is a positive. A way for him to reset himself and get back on the grind. I still believe in Mark Vientos. I still think Mark Vientos could be a solid major league hitter, a power hitter, a DH, whatever. Let's give Mark Vientos a chance when he comes back and see if he can get back to the form he was in 2024. Now, Andrew Tredenick, NorthJersey.com, the record, a good friend to the show, talked about Jose Siri and the fractured tibia. He had a setback. The bone hasn't really recovered as they hoped it would, and, they're shutting him down from baseball activities, and he will be re-imaged in a few weeks. I'm not going to count on Jose Siri to come back. I will say this. Do the Mets need to now go after center fielder at the trade deadline? Or can they manage with Tyrone Taylor and Jeff McNeil? I know everyone wants to make a trade, but are you okay with Tyrone Taylor manning center field and Jeff McNeil? They pretty much won that way most of the season now. Another friend to the show, Laura Albanese of Newsday, saying Jesse Winker, who suffered a right oblique strain, is still weeks away from a rehab assignment, so he's going through hitting progressions as well. Man, if we could get the old Jesse Winker back and we can get Mark Vientos up and running, only helps this offense, makes them deeper, and I really like to see those two come back. And remember when I talked about the lefty out of the bullpen the Mets could be getting? Abby Mistreko of the Daily News saying that Brooks Raley, who's coming off of his Tommy John surgery, will begin a rehab assignment next week. He'll go through a full 30-day process to come back. The Mets really need a second lefty to go along with Jose Castillo. They really do. After losing AJ Minter and Danny Young within a week, I thought we were going to struggle to find a lefty. And at the very least, Jose Castillo has kind of hit the pitching lab and figured things out. I'm very happy that he has. He's really helped the Mets out here. But I always say, you need 2 lefties in the bullpen. 2. And if you have Jose Castillo, if you have a returning Brooks Raley, that is a huge boost to this bullpen. And I'm not saying that this is going to be their trade deadline move, but it's going to help this team. Mets need the depth out there in the bullpen, especially with how overworked they have been as of most recent. And to see Brooks Raley come back from that Tommy John surgery would be great. Now, the Mets signed Travis Jankowski. Remember him? Signed him to a minor league deal in 2022. He batted 167, had 2 RBIs, but he, played good defense. And he was a little bit of the heart of that Met 2022 run until they traded him. I think he got traded to the White Sox, if I'm correct. But he's back on a minor league deal. Who knows if that lasts? The Mets are starting to bring back a lot of these guys. I don't know why. But yeah. Gary King III saying Mullins is the way to go for center field if Stearns and Co are big on Drew Gilbert. I've been talking about Cedric Mullins in the last show. I don't know how real that decision to go after him is until I see David Stearns make a big move. I don't believe it. Right? He made a lot of minor moves to help out the bench and help out the bullpen. But Cedric Mullins would be one of the first bigger type moves that he would be making. I'm kind of more in line with what Armand is saying here, that, he doubts that Stearns trades for an outfielder, they'll stay internally. I think so. I think they will. I said it last episode. I don't see a big trade deadline coming for the Mets. I just don't see it. I'd be shocked. I'd be surprised. Would I hate it? No. Obviously, if they can improve this team and help them be more of a contender for the World Series, I'm there for it. But I have my doubts. There's a couple more comments before we wrap up this show. 2 of them are tied together. Let's hit these 2 comments together here. And Stanley Babbage saying, who will represent the Mets in the All-Star game? And then G Money Stack saying, do you think that David Peterson should be in the All-Star game? After all, he did save the bullpen for the New York Mets. I mean, he's not going to go into the All-Star game just based off of that one start. But as we talked about earlier, he's top 5 in the National League in ERA. Right up there with Kodai Senga. And now with Kodai Senga out and probably going to be out through the All-Star break, he would have been one of the guys that made the All-Star team if it was up to me for the New York Mets. So you got to figure in Francisco Lindor finally gets into the All-Star game as a Met. Pete Alonso going to another All-Star game after what is a fabulous start to the season for him. Who knows about Juan Soto? Maybe people vote him in. I don't know. Do they just go off of name? Maybe. Does he have a hot streak in him? That's going to be even longer than over the past week? Maybe. I assume that people will vote for him and want to see him at the All-Star game. Then when it comes to pitching, you got to think Edwin Diaz, who's been really solid out of the bullpen, kind of more that 2022 Edwin Diaz, and then David Peterson. So it would be about 4 or 5 guys I would think would be going to the All-Star game for the Mets. And I do think David Peterson is deserving of going into the All-Star game. I really do. I want to shout out the chat here for what was a wonderful show. We had over 85 people in the room today. I know it's early Sunday morning on Father's Day, but this was a great Father's Day gift for me to be able to talk with you guys and be a part of this show. I want to shout out to all the fathers out there. Like I said earlier, whether girl dad, boy dad, pet dad, shout out to all of you that do all the hard work and being great fathers out there. You can follow me on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can subscribe on YouTube, as Duran mentioned earlier in the chat. We are 17 away from 1,000 subscribers. Share the news. If you have other Met fans that are friends or family, let them know to subscribe to Subway to Shea. They could be a part of the chat like you guys were and gals. Love to have you a part of the show. It's a lot of fun when I'm doing the show by myself, and I could be very interactive with the chat here. It's always a lot of fun. Now, next week, we'll probably have a guest. We're working on some things for the next couple of weeks, so it might not be solo, but I wanted to do this one with you solo the last couple of weeks. And I've had a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun talking Mets with you guys, and I will hope to continue to do that every week, every Sunday at 10 a.m. I know we got off to a little bit of later start because of technical difficulties, but I appreciate you for sticking around. Subscribe on YouTube if you want to be a part of the chat and the conversation. You can also check in on X as well. You can post your comments there, and I think they come up here on my feed. If you want to listen to the show, Apple Podcasts and Spotify is the way to go. That show will be up later on. But again, you want to be on the chat, you want to talk with me during the live portion of the show, X and YouTube. I hope to see you back next week as we dive into all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. For Anthony Rivera, this has been the Subway to Shake podcast. And always remember, let's go Mets.